Ah, yeah. Bow, 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 bow. Oh, yeah. Three Things with JR is back. Episode number 72. Vacation's over. It wasn't much of a vacation. I did spend a week in Iowa, but there was a lot of driving involved and a lot of disc golf and a lot of hanging out with family and stuff like that. And it was great. But outside of that, there was a lot of disc golf tournaments, band practice, comedy gigs. It's actually pretty good to be back on a regular schedule again. And that includes making this podcast. I have been wanting to do this for a while, but it was nice to have some time off and not trying to fit this in to my my busy last several weeks. I do have a special guest on today's show. While on vacation in Iowa at our beautiful lake house, sitting on the back porch, I interviewed my Aunt Elaine. She's also known to her grandkids and great-grandkids as Grandma Lainey. She is my dad's twin sister. It's Eldon and Elaine. She is just a little bit older than my dad by a couple minutes. And we did a pretty nice interview. I had asked her, I've always thought of my Aunt Elaine as the source of dirty jokes in Iowa, in Emmetsburg, Iowa, up there in the northwest corner of Iowa. And she's always just, when we got there, she's like just dirty joke after dirty joke. She's getting older. She doesn't remember them all. And I guess she's out of practice. She had a couple ready to go, teed up for me. And I think you're going to like hearing from just a sweet little old 72-year-old grandma from Emmetsburg. You might even think you're in the movie Fargo, don't you know? She does have a bit of a potty mouth, and I think if you're anything like me, you can't wait to hear a 72-year-old grandma drop a couple of F-bombs, and I'm telling you, that's coming up in the interview with Grandma Lainey. So, yeah, that'll be up here in a few minutes. I'm going to do a couple of things myself. But first, I want to tell you, I don't know why I want to tell you this. I feel like I probably shouldn't tell you this until afterwards, once I find out I didn't get the part. But I'm going to audition for a musical. What? What are you talking about? Yeah, I am. My girlfriend Kiki and I, we love going to musicals on Broadway, off-Broadway, locally here in Charlottesville, Waynesboro, Stanton, four-county players, wherever we can find a good musical, we're in. We recently saw Oklahoma at a barn on a farm out in the middle of nowhere, so we're into it. And she found out that the Wayne Theater over there in Waynesboro is having auditions for A Christmas Story, the musical. And she thought, maybe I should do this. Meaning me, not her. She's not going to do it. She's too chicken to audition, but she thought I might not be, and I think she's right. I read the deal with the auditions. Here's what I've got to do. I got to show up with a 1-minute monologue prepared, and I need to also come prepared to sing 32 bars of a song with a pre-record accompaniment. And then I can audition. Now, there's only really 2 roles in A Christmas Story, the musical. Yes, it's based on the famous movie with the leg lamp and the Red Ryder BB gun and all of that. That is the movie that has been turned into a musical. It's been on Broadway, and now it's at the Wayne Theater. And the 2 parts that I could potentially audition for or potentially get would first be Gene Shepherd, who I didn't know the narrator of the story had a name, but the name apparently is Gene Shepherd, this is the character's described as a charismatic and good-natured curmudgeon. Narrates the story, but also assumes minor character roles at times. Non-singing and non-dancing role must work well with young actors. I think that's the one for me. However, I still have to come prepared with some songs, with a song to sing. So I guess I got to do that. The other role, of course, would be as the old man, the dad in the movie or in the show. Devoted father and husband, good-natured with a gruff exterior, a vocal range of high baritone, must work well with young actors. So I presume there is some singing and dancing involved if I were to land the role of the old man, which I'm not so sure I want that. I think I want to be the narrator. I think that is me. So what am I going to do for my audition? And I started looking up monologue and audition monologues and stuff. And man, I think you're supposed to probably show up with the monologue memorized. And this audition is happening at 7 p.m. the same day this podcast comes out, Tuesday the 21st. And I just decided to do it yesterday. So I don't have a whole ton of time to memorize a monologue. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the following as my monologue. I'm going to get a scholarship to King's College. You know, I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I amaze and astonish. The problem is I've got a lot of brains, just no polish. I feel like I've got to holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a diamond in the rough. I'm a shiny piece of coal. Trying to reach my goal and my power of speech, well, it's just unimpeachable. I know, I'm only 19, but my mind, it's older. And these New York City streets they're getting colder, and I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage that I've learned to manage, and I don't even have a gun to brandish. And I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame. But damn, it's getting dark. So let me spell out my name. That's a 1-minute monologue. That's me doing Hamilton, in case you didn't know. And here's what I'm going to do. As far as singing, I have to do a song. And it says to come with a prepared accompaniment on like my phone or whatever that they can play. They won't have a pianist there. And something in the style of the show, but not songs from the show. So what I picked the following song. I found a karaoke version on YouTube, and here's what I'm going to do as my audition. Mele-kaliki-maka is the thing to say on a bright Hawaiian Christmas day. That's the island greeting that we send to you from the land where palm trees sway. Here we know that Christmas will be green and bright. The sun will shine by day and all the stars at night. Mele-kaliki-maka is Hawaii's way to say Merry Christmas to you. There you go. Would you hire me for that? I don't know. We'll find out. I don't know. I don't know why I did that for you. I hope I didn't jinx myself. I just wanted to put myself out there and show off my skills or totally embarrass myself. Either way, I don't care. Whatever. We're going to do some things. Then we're going to come back with Grandma Lainey. And let's kick it off with...
Thing number 1.
My dad is invincible. You know how you think that when you're a kid? Well, with my dad, it seems to be true. He used to drink a lot. He smoked a lot of cigarettes. He did whatever kind of drugs you do when you're in the Navy in the early 70s. He rode motorcycles. He painted houses for 40 years and just totally abused his body with that. Most of those years painting houses, he did it by himself, including painting on rooftops and windows at the top of 40-foot ladders. Ironically, he never fell off one of those ladders, but he did fall off a ladder while trimming a tree in his backyard. He broke his pelvis and stuff. He totaled a car while on the interstate. He currently runs red lights, not on purpose, by accident, but still. And most recently, as you may know if you've listened to this show, he got COVID last year. So bad that he was ready to die. We thought we were having our last conversation with him, but no. He powered through and he's still with us. Most recently, he was told by 2 different doctors that he most likely has lung cancer. 2 different doctors were over 95% sure that the spots on his lungs were cancer. They ordered up some biopsies, and they did. One week and the other lung the next week. And you know what? Nope, not cancer. Most likely spots, scar tissue, something left over from the COVID. Safe to say he's got long COVID for sure. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that my dad's a badass.
Thing number 2.
Metallica's Blacklist has got me very excited once again for that particular album. Metallica's Black Album was the reason I became a Metallica fan. Like so many people back in the early 90s, you weren't a Metallica fan until that album came out, and then we all jumped on the Metallica bandwagon, much to the chagrin of all the metalheads that had already been listening to Ride the Lightning and Justice for All, Master of Puppets, Kill 'Em All, and all the wonderful, amazing Metallica albums that came out before Metallica's Black Album. And I am a huge fan of all of it. I love Metallica, even Saint Anger, one of my favorite Metallica albums. Can't get into the Lou Reed stuff, and Reload didn't do anything for me, but most Metallica is amazing. They have just put out, and have been putting out for the past few months actually, covers of songs from Metallica's Black Album done by a bunch of other artists, and now there's like a complete playlist on Spotify. It's called Metallica Presents The Black List, and there's some great covers of some great Metallica tunes. Couple of highlights for you. Every single version of the song Sad But True is fantastic. I personally recommend Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit, as well as the Royal Blood and the St. Vincent versions. Fantastic. Nothing Else Matters. Chris Stapleton does a haunting rendition of that. My Friend of Misery, sort of a deep cut on the album by an artist I've never heard of, Cherry Glazer. Never heard of her, but she's fantastic. And the album, the playlist rounds out with an acoustic instrumental of The Struggle Within by Rodrigo y Gabriela. Those 2 guitar maniacs are amazing. And so I strongly recommend, you don't even have to like Metallica to like these other very alternative versions of Metallica songs, and I just highly recommend it. So go check it out. Metallica Presents The Blacklist on Spotify.
Thing number 3.
I got a new nickname recently. I've had several nicknames over the years. I was nicknamed Crash when I was in high school because I crashed bicycles when I worked at a bike shop. And of course, I go by JR. It's a nickname. My real name is Adam. But I now have a new nickname. Kiki and I were at the Whiskey Jar. It's this nice little bar with obviously whiskey. Great food. We had dinner there. We had the dogs with us. It was a nice late night on like a Friday night right before I went on vacation, and they were having a band. The band was loading in while we were sitting out on the patio, and I wasn't smoking cigarettes, but I was vaping, and I was vaping my favorite flavor of vape juice, and one of the guys from the band said, "Man, what's that vape juice flavor you got going?" And I told him, "It's butterscotch." He's like, "Butterscotch, that's what I'm going to call you." And he kept seeing us and talking to us on his way in and out. He had his drummer talk to us. He even at one point, the drummer was like, "Oh, you're a drummer too? You should come up and play a couple songs." And the singer was like, "Yeah, man, do it. I'll just call you up. I'll yell out butterscotch and you just come on up here." And it turned out we couldn't stick around late enough to actually take him up on that offer. But the band, the Musical Suspects, they were cool. I got to watch a couple songs, listen, and they were fantastic. But I now have a new nickname. You can feel free to call me Butterscotch. Whoa, bumped my mic stand. Call me Butterscotch. When we were out in Iowa, my 5-year-old nephew, Charlie, he totally took to that. He didn't remember me from meeting me 2 years ago when he was only 3. So when I saw him this time, he's like, I was like, "Do you remember me?" He's like, "No." And I said, "My name's Butterscotch." And he called me Butterscotch the rest of the trip. It was fantastic. So I will not be offended. I will love it if you, the general public, the listeners of this podcast, when you see me in person, call me Butterscotch. All right. that's my three things. We're going to have Grandma Lainey coming back with some F-bombs, some three things, some dirty jokes, and a funny little story or two about my dad and her, Grandma Lainey's time living in small town, surrounded by corn in Iowa life. And I think you're going to love it. So we'll see you back here in a few minutes. Stay with us after the break.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. There's no time for play. Get up, get up, get up. It's a brand new day.
You ever been on a podcast before, Elaine?
No.
Do you know what a podcast is?
Yes, because I've listened to a couple of years.
Yeah? You listened to mine?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
Elda and I listened to one. I forget where we were going. I think Patty was in the car. Must have been the last time we went to Des Moines, and you were talking about Father's Day, I think.
Yeah, the Father's Day episode.
I think so. I think that was it.
And was that with Aubrey and Mom and me talking
Yes.
about Dad? Or
Yes.
maybe just Aubrey and me? Was it all three of
I
us?
think it was just Aubrey and you.
Yeah. My podcast, I've been, changing it up how I do it.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to do now is surprise people and just call them out of the blue and interview them for my podcast. So they have no chance to prepare for being interviewed or anything like that.
If you ever call me on a surprise, I'm going to hang up.
Well, I don't have
I never
to.
did like talk to people.
Well, you like talking to me.
Well, yeah. But
That's all
when
it is. You're just talking to me.
Yeah, but when people ask questions, no,
What kind of questions could I ask that would freeze you up?
I can't think of anybody.
That
now,
one.
but-
That's one right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I got a question for you. How is it that you never decided to leave Emmetsburg?
I did leave Emmetsburg once.
Really?
I moved out to Washington, D.C.
You lived elsewhere?
Yes, I did. Patty wanted me to get out of town, and Mary wanted me to get out of town. So Mary got me a job. I had a job before I even left Emmetsburg,
Okay.
out in Washington, D.C. I went from little old Emmetsburg clear
Yeah.
up to Washington, D.C., and I worked at the Catholic University.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But
Did you live on your own?
no, I lived with Mary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because she lived in D.C. for a while around the
yeah.
same time my dad
Yeah.
did, right?
Yes. Well, no.
they live
'cause
together?
We went to Georgia to see your dad. I think it was Georgia. Because Mary and I took a road trip to see Eldon, and we got run off the road by a semi.
Oh, my.
And we didn't get an accident or anything, but he kind of forced us off the road.
Yeah?
And ever since then, I've been afraid of semis.
Were you
But I
driving
can't-
really slow in the left lane or something?
I can't remember.
No? Or was he just
I
a
don't-
bad semi-driver?
All I know is we were forced off the road.
Yeah.
But
That must have been scary.
yeah, it was. That's why I hate semis to this day.
Uh-huh.
If I see one coming up behind me, I'll go around the block and let him pass me up. I hate him. But no, your dad was, I don't know if it was Georgia or where it was, but we went somewhere to see him. I remember that. But I lived out there for 9-10 months, and I didn't like it. I wasn't happy. I moved back, and I was back here maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most. And I had a job at Cargill, which lasted 20 years.
That's when I think of my Aunt Elaine. I always think of someone that worked at Cargill.
Yeah.
That was, I identified you with Cargill, which
Yeah.
is like a big grain elevator
Yes.
in town.
And when
right?
I applied for the job, I was a bookkeeper. And I told him, I said, I have no idea what bookkeeping is about. Because I said, we never had it in school. And I remember my boss says, that's good, we can teach you our way of doing it.
Oh.
So, and I lasted 20 years.
I was actually
Almost.
going to ask you how you came to be a bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
What did you have education preparing you for that or no?
Never went to college.
And was their way of bookkeeping above board, or did they do some shady stuff?
No, it
or?
was above board.
Yeah?
And I don't know if you can really call it bookkeeping. I mean, I wrote out checks, I did time cards. And then during harvest, we had all these grain tickets, and I added those up, and I wrote checks out for farmers. And
Yeah.
And when I first started to harvest, I'd go to work at 7 in the morning, work until about 7 at night, and go home and spend a couple hours with Amy, and I'd go back about 9:30, and I work until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
What?
And I was doing all the grain tickets, adding all those up and getting everything ready for the next morning.
Because the farmers are working all day, every day
and
during the harvest.
I would get behind in the grain tickets, and so I'd get them all added up, because you write a sheet out for a farmer, and then they had all these tickets, and you had to add them all up and make sure and so I'd work until 1, and the thing that kept me going was dollar signs going by my eyes. Kept me going until 2 o'clock, and I was back at work at 7.
Now, is that overtime and stuff for you?
Yes, and that's the pretty good sized paychecks.
Yeah.
Then after a few years, we got the computer. And that kind of cut down on it still got overtime.
Right. But it made your job easier?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't working until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So, but yeah, I lasted almost 20 years.
And where, do you remember where in the D.C. area you guys lived?
Do you remember?
Maryland.
It was in Maryland.
Okay.
And what did you not like about living in that area?
Well, because you couldn't go outside by yourself. And Mary told me that it wasn't in our complex, but one across the way. There was a girl that went down to do laundry, and there were some men down there, and they rolled her up in carpet and burned her to death.
That seems unpleasant.
Yes, and I was afraid to go anywhere.
Yeah.
We always went together when we did.
Right. So was this a bad neighborhood?
I didn't see anything bad about it, but I remember her telling me about that.
Yeah.
And so we just didn't go anywhere alone.
And what did you do for the Catholic University?
I was it was an office where a whole bunch of people worked, and I did up, can't think of the word I want. When you get supplies in, and you got this piece of paper.
Like receiving?
That, and I can't remember. I mean, it was just a lot of paperwork.
Accounts receivable?
Yeah, something
that
on
kind
that
of
order.
stuff?
Yeah. And really nice people to work with. But I wasn't happy. I mean, I stuck it out for quite a while.
Sure.
And I'm glad I had the opportunity to get out of town, but I went from one extreme to another extreme.
Yeah. And so you made the decision to move back to your hometown.
Yeah.
Did you move back in with your parents, or is that when you got your
moved in
house?
with my mom and dad.
Yeah.
I didn't get my house until after I had Amy. She was a year and a half old, I think. So it was probably about 1981.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you move from that house into living with Red, or did you move back into your parents' place?
I moved back into my parents because I sold my house, and then I moved in with Mom and Dad until we got married, and then
What did you sell your house for? Do you remember the dollar amount?
I don't know. That's a long time ago.
I kind of remember some ridiculously,
1980.
I grew up in Northern Virginia, so house prices were not the same there as they are or were in Emmetsburg, right? But it's like somewhere around 10 or 20,000, something like that.
I was going to say, I want, for some reason, 23 sticks in my mind. I don't know if that was it. Now, my house that I moved out of after Red passed away 4 years later, we sold that one for $67,000.
$67,000.
$67,000 is what I got out of it.
That house.
I had 5.5 lots.
That house in Falls Church would have been probably what do you think, Mom? $1 million?
Now or back then?
Yeah. Well,
When did you sell it?
Let's see, Michael graduated in 2008. Probably 2009, 2010. I know it was.
That house.
No, it was after that, because I've only been in my apartment maybe 9 years.
Well, first of all, she just said there were 5 lots.
Yeah, 5.5 lots.
That's a lot of land. You wouldn't even have been able to find that in Falls Church. But if you just the house in one lot would have probably sold at that time for $500,000 to $600,000 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a house with it had did it have a bedroom on the main floor or no?
No.
So 3 bedrooms?
4 bedrooms.
Four
upstairs.
bedrooms upstairs, a bathroom upstairs, a bathroom downstairs, a basement.
Basement.
Nice front porch.
Oh, beautiful front porch.
That was a
I
great
miss
front
that.
porch. And obviously a pretty huge yard.
Yes.
And you sold all of that for $67,000. And Did you consider that a good price, or were you settling for that?
I settled for that. I was hoping to get more out of it, but I don't know the business about selling houses and
Right.
what to get. I just went with what the realtor.
Yeah. And now you live in a little apartment,
Little old apartment, 2-bedroom.
and you decorate for all the holidays.
Oh, you bet. I got my little corner of the world right outside my door. I got a little Christmas tree that I put Halloween decorations, Valentine decorations, St. Pat's decorations on it, Easter.
Yeah.
It's my little corner of the world.
And you're a grandma.
I'm a grandma.
How many-
I'm a great-grandma.
About to become a great grandma.
Yes. If you count all of my husband's girls and their families,
Yeah.
I've got 7 daughters and 1 son. I've got 20 grandchildren.
Oh my.
I've got roughly 7 or 8 grandchildren, great grandchildren. Great grandchildren, yeah. About 7
Hard to keep
great-grandchildren.
count.
Yes, it is. I've got to think, are they grandchildren or great grandchildren?
So your grandchildren are having kids,
Yes.
and continue to do so.
Yes. And I'm going to have a great granddaughter in November.
And what do your grandkids call you? Do they all call you the same
They
thing?
call me Grandma Lainey.
Grandma Lainey?
My sister's daughter, Sarah, when she was young, she couldn't say Elaine, Aunt Elaine, so she was Aunt Lainey. And my daughter Amy, when she was teaching Zoe and Tori the prayer, "Now I lay me down to sleep," the first time they said it, "Now I lay me down to sleep."
Nice.
So I said, at least they remember me.
That's perfect.
And I've been Grandma Lainey ever since. That's been 30-some years ago.
Yeah. When I think of Emmetsburg, Iowa, I think of Grandma Susie, and you're kind of like the Grandma Susie of of this place now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but we got Patty,
Well, there's also Grandma Patty.
That's right, Grandma Patty. Yeah. So, but, yeah.
So another thing I always associate with my dear, lovely Aunt Elaine is dirty jokes.
Dirty jokes.
Dirty jokes. Which I know I'm putting you on the spot. Do you remember any of the dirty? Because
I remember
this was always
a couple
something
of them.
we could count on.
I know
when
it,
we
but
came
you know,
out here.
You get to be 72, you forget things.
Sure.
One of them was my Uncle Ray told me this joke, and that's been probably 40, 45 years ago. For some reason, it's stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
But do you know how to make Mogan David wine?
Do I know how to make Mogan David wine?
Yes.
I do not. How do you make Mogan David wine?
You pinch his nuts.
So who is Mogan David?
There is a wine, Mogan David wine.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
name of a wine.
Yes, it is, Mogan
Popular
David.
45 years ago.
So when I was 2, this was a thing.
Yes, that's right, Mogan
Okay.
David wine.
And it was named after a guy, probably.
Yeah, it was named after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was Mogan David, and he made wine, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but no, for some reason that's that. And another one he told me was, do you know how to make a hormone?
Do you know how to make a hormone?
Yes.
How?
Don't pay her.
That makes sense.
And then the third joke was a Pollock joke.
A Pollock joke?
Pollock joke. Do you know how to drive a Pollock crazy?
How?
Stick him in a round room and tell him to pee in the corner.
Ah. So, are Pollock jokes okay to tell anymore?
You know, you don't hear about them anymore
Right.
like you used to. There used to be all kinds of Pollock jokes.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but do you know how to Pollock ties his shoes?
How?
He puts his foot up on a chair, then he reaches down and ties the one on the floor.
Why does he do that?
He's a Pollock.
That one's
You know,
so
most
great in
normal
its
people would-
simplicity.
Most normal people would tie the one they put up
No,
on
sure,
the chair.
I get it.
That's about the extent of my jokes, ones that I can remember.
There's got to be more. So,
There's got to be last night. I know there's some blonde jokes I've heard, but do you think I can think of them?
probably not. No. I don't know that I've heard Pollock jokes from anybody except for like my dad and you. Is that like is that because Emmetsburg is very Irish?
Yeah.
Is it any kind of like a? I can't think of words now. Is it the Irish versus the Polish at all? Is that a thing?
I don't know, but I remember years ago there used to be all kinds of Pollock jokes out there.
And why are the Polish assumed to be stupid? Like that's the premise of Pollock jokes, right?
Yeah.
Why? Why are they?
Probably about the same thing as blonde jokes.
Well, blondes we know. I mean, they're clearly.
Most blondes are.
Was there like a bunch of really stupid Polish people that just gave them all a bad name, or was there one? Do we have any idea, Mom? Do you know?
No.
I don't know how
I
it
really
came
don't.
about, but I remember there used to be all kinds of jokes about Pollocks.
Yeah.
And I used to be able to tell jokes one right after another, but
What happened to you?
I don't know.
Man, if I only had a podcast back then.
Yeah,
That would have
been a good one. I
so
would have been
good.
here all night telling jokes.
Okay, so we've had my dad on this show several times, talking about various things, and you are his twin sister, so I'm sure you have stories about my dad our listeners would love to hear.
Well, growing up, we had a kitchen table that had, I don't know if it was aluminum table, but I remember it being, I think it was red and white, and the legs on the four legs had a hole. There was two legs kind of together, and one leg had a hole in it. Well, my twin brother decided that that's where he put his crust. He stuffed all the holes with crust of his bread.
Like peanut butter and jelly sandwich type bread?
Yeah, all the crust on any kind of sandwich or anything, those went down those little holes, all four legs.
And did he fill them up?
I can't remember if he filled them up or not, but I remember him stuffing bread down there.
Did this ever get discovered? I mean, did it smell at some point?
I can't remember. I just remember him doing it, and I don't know who discovered it. I don't know how they got it out, if they had to tip the table upside down or... And then when he was sneaking cigarettes in his bedroom, he put all the cigarette butts down the heat register. And I think my dad discovered that.
That seems
I don't know
dangerous.
if it was in the bathroom, but that's where his cigarette butts
I think
went.
I've heard this story. I think it was the one in the bathroom, near
yeah.
the tub.
I can
right?
kind of picture the one in the
Yeah.
bathroom.
Do I have the story right that Dad was afraid of the dark?
Oh, yes.
And
He'd
his
wait.
bedroom was near your bedroom.
Yeah.
And to go to the bathroom, if he had to go to the bathroom at night, would he
He'd
like...
lay in bed and he goes, Elaine, and I'd holler out, what? I've got to go to the bathroom. So I would get up out of bed, go turn the hall light on, and I'd go back to bed, and he'd do his thing in the bathroom, then he'd go back to bed. Elaine, you can shut the light off now. So I was stupid enough to get up and turn the light off. And I don't know how many years I did that, but...
Yeah, what this says about him, and what does it say about you? The fact that... Was he really that afraid of the dark that he needed that?
That part I don't remember.
Or was he just
really
on a power trip?
I don't know, but I don't remember anything else about him being afraid of the dark.
No.
But I don't know if it was because he was lazy and I was the stupid one to get up and turn the light on for him.
Did you ever smoke cigarettes?
No, I tried once.
How did you get through life without taking up that habit? I mean, both your parents smoked.
Eldon smoked, Patty smoked, Mary smoked.
Yeah, all three of your siblings smoked, your parents smoked. How did you not pick it up?
Well, we had a friend of ours from Des Moines. Her mom and dad and her came to stay at our place. And her mom and dad and our mom and dad went uptown one night, and she was there. We decided to get into, I think it was Mom's cigarettes. And I'm sitting there, and I didn't know how to inhale. So I just sat there puffing on the stupid thing, and I thought, well, this isn't any fun. And I never went back to it.
Cause you knew you couldn't. You knew you weren't doing it right.
Yeah. So I never had the inkling to smoke, or so we smoked. our mom was a beauty operator, and she had bobby pins. And we'd take one bobby pin and put about 3 on it. And we put them on our ears. And we had earrings. They
Okay.
dangled.
Yeah.
And then we smoked bobby pins. That was our cigarettes back then.
Like
We were-
like kids smoking candy cigarettes or
That's
something.
right. We
Yeah.
were hot stuff with our earrings. We'd twist our heads so they'd move,
Ooh.
And we'd smoke in these bobby pins.
So fancy.
But that's all the smoking I did was bobby pins.
You ever smoke pot or anything like that?
Nope.
You ever do any kind of drugs whatsoever?
Nope.
Even your 9 months in D.C., no drugs? Seems like the time to do it.
Yeah. Nope. I was a good little girl.
Yeah. What's the worst thing you've ever done?
Got pregnant without a husband. That's bad enough right there.
I mean, by today's standards, that's not all that bad,
No,
Elaine.
it isn't. No, but that was 32 years ago.
At the
Or
time,
42
I was going to
years
say
ago.
maybe longer than
42
that.
years ago.
At the time, was it pretty controversial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was afraid to tell my dad because our dad always told us if we ever got pregnant before we got married, we were just automatically kicked out of the house. So I was scared to death to tell my dad. And I had gone down to Patty and Bert's and told them, and they said, you go home and tell your dad before he finds out from somebody else. So I did. And I went home and I was sitting out in the back room and he goes by and Mom says, Tony, Elaine has something to tell you. So my dad had heart trouble. And Bert had told me that if we had problems, to call him and he'd come right down. So anyway, I told him I was pregnant. He turned as white as a ghost, never said a word. He walked out the back door. So I can't remember if I called Bert or if Mom did, but they said, you better come down. So they came down and Bert went outside and talked to my dad. And what was said, I will never know because they're both gone. And anyway, I was standing in the living room and I was crying and I heard Dad come in. He was standing behind me. And I turned around and I said, Dad, don't hate me for this. He says, I don't. He said, now I got to prove how much I love you.
Wow.
Yes. And he did.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, he did. He proved so much how much he loved me.
You're giving me chills right now. I did not know that.
Yeah, he did. And back then, as a Catholic, they had what they called a 9-day novena. They prayed 9 days for something special.
Okay.
And he prayed that I would have a healthy baby.
Wow.
Yeah. And he, when we were growing up, he never, both Mom and Dad worked all the time, so he never got to do things with us kids.
Right.
But he did all sorts of things with Amy. He had time to do it. Took her to the park, took her uptown. And I remember we had this grocery store, Joyce's Foodland. And when you walked in, they had this great big white fence. And inside that fence was all kinds of stuffed animals. And there was a great big elephant there. And every time she went in with Grandpa, she'd say, there's my Dumbo, Grandpa. So Grandpa bought it for her for Christmas. We put the elephant in a great big toilet tissue box and wrapped paper around it. And she ripped that open and her eyes got real big and she said, there's my Dumbo, Grandpa. And to this day, she still has that elephant.
That's awesome.
So, Dad did things with her that he didn't have the chance to do with us kids.
Yeah.
And he did prove how much he loved me. He even passed out bubblegum cigars when she was born. So
That's fantastic because, I remember Grandpa Tony. He was mostly silent, right? When I was around, except for when he would decide to just be a fun guy and be Santa Claus outside the window.
Yes.
And when he would laugh, everybody could hear that laugh. And so I think of him as the sort of the strong, silent, stoic sort of grandfather. And the idea that Bert, who is also known to, well, not also, but is known to not necessarily be the nicest guy in the world, could somehow have that conversation and that be the end result of that.
yeah,
That's just
like
mind-blowing to think of
we'll
that.
never know what was said between the two of them.
Yeah. Man. Go Bert, go Tony.
That's right. Yeah, because I was scared to death to tell him,
You had told your mom,
I had told Mom.
and
Then we
she
went down and
didn't
told
tell
Patty
your
and
dad?
Bert. No.
That's how long did she know before you told
I'm
Tony?
thinking probably a couple days,
Okay.
you know.
She lived with that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's good stuff, Elaine.
Yeah.
You gave me chills.
Did I?
I hope people listening
yeah,
understand.
everybody that I tell that to, because I break down and cry,
Yeah.
you know, because he did prove how much he loved me, you know. And when he said that, he said, now I got to prove how much I love you.
Yeah.
So,
That's so good.
and he did.
Okay, the podcast is called Three Things with JR. The three things, it started off as me just being on Facebook, typing up three things before I'd go to bed each night. And it was just a fun thing to do on Facebook. And then it became this podcast. And then when I started interviewing people on the podcast, I put them on the spot and asked them for three specific things. So this is not as hard as it sounds. I'm just letting you know what we're doing here. So thing number one is I want you to tell me, like, when I would used to do it on Facebook, it would be some sort of deep thought or something I thought was kind of clever or important, right? Some sort of life lesson or anything like that. Can you think of any kind of deep thoughts or something that you would want to say?
Well, I don't know if this is what you want or not, but I know when I got pregnant at work, I was afraid to tell them. And I told them, and Amy had 6 uncles. They all came forward. And my boss, when I told my boss, he says, you know, Elaine, he says, if this would have happened 20 years ago, we'd have to fire you. And he says, nowadays, we don't have to. And they
Wow.
supported me like, it was wonderful. You know, and the men that worked there, they all came to the hospital to see me and Amy, and they were Amy's uncles. And one of the men made Amy a rocking chair.
Oh,
So,
man.
yeah.
So that's the difference between the late 50s and the late
Yeah,
70s.
right.
That's
Yeah.
that's remarkable difference right
Yeah.
there. Just, I mean, I don't necessarily think of Emmetsburg, Iowa as the most progressive town,
Yeah.
right? But that to hear that kind of progress was being made back then, that's pretty deep. That's good.
Yeah.
You're good at this, Elaine.
Okay.
Thing number 2 is easy. Tell me about your favorite song right now. What do you like to listen to? I don't know if you listen to music in the car or at home, wherever you like to listen to music. What's your go-to thing to listen to?
I like the music back in the 70s and 80s. My twin brother, Eldon, your dad,
Yeah.
I've got an old phone that I had, and we put all kinds of old songs on it that I grew up with. And I go to Des Moines, and I play that for 3 hours in the car. And I sing along. I can't sing, but I sing along in the car. Nobody's
Sure.
listening.
There you go.
And sometimes I have to tell myself to shut up because I can't stand it. But that's the kind of music I like. The music nowadays, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I don't care for the music now. Even the country western music isn't as good as it was back then.
Sure.
But I like Charlie Pride, Engelbert Humperdinck, Conway Twitty, Tammy Wynette, all those kind of singers.
So
And when I go to Minnesota for 4 hours, I listen to the whole tape over and over and over again. I've got quite a few songs.
and you have these songs on an old iPhone or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. That,
And
so
I just plug her in, and
yeah.
that's it. I'm happy. I don't,
Perfect. Yep.
I'm very happy with my music.
I want to hear you singing sometime.
Oh, no, you're not going to hear me sing, ever.
Just want to sneak in your car and ride to Minnesota with you and record you singing. Because I think people need to hear that.
The other day I was singing along, and I thought, oh, my God. Elaine, don't even try.
See, I sing along in the car, and I think I sound amazing.
Yeah.
It's when I try to sing outside of the car. If I try to do a solo, that's when I realize I can't really
But
sing
see,
that well.
Patty and Mary, they can sing and they can dance. Eldon and I, we can't carry a tune and we can't dance. My husband, the only song that we would dance to is the Righteous Brothers Unchained Melody.
Oh, man.
And
you picked a
that's
good
one
one.
dance that we would dance to.
Yeah.
It was a slow dance, and
Right.
that was our favorite song.
All right, thing number 3. Just tell me something stupid, something funny, something silly, something like that.
This is a hard one.
This is the hardest one.
Yes. Oh, something silly. You mean something that's happened to me, or?
It could be whatever comes to your mind that's just silly or dumb or stupid. I mean, if it was my 3 things, I would be like, talk about picking my nose or how good my farts smell or something like that. But
Speaking of farts,
farts
2 years
never
ago-
disappoint. Farts never disappoint.
2 years ago, when we were at the lake here,
Yep.
we went out on the pontoon,
Yep.
and I was getting off the pontoon, and I let just a real little one go.
Uh-huh.
And Alan was standing there, and I said, "Excuse me, Alan," and he says, "Elaine, you just made a memory." So
I didn't know grandmas farted.
well, we don't do it on purpose, believe me. When you get a certain age, you just walk along and you toot, toot, toot.
Yeah.
But I was getting off the pontoon, and I let one go. And he was so nice about it. He said, "Elaine, you just made a memory." So
For him, he'll never forget it.
that's right. It was very nice of him to say that.
Yeah.
So
Let's finish this up with, tell me a story about Red. Your favorite story about Red.
favorite story about Red. We bought a new car, and the inside was hunter green, and he hated it, but he bought it for me. And one Saturday night, 2 of his daughters were at our house, and they spent the night. Well, he went to bed about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I didn't go to bed until about 1 or 1:30, and I went upstairs, getting ready to crawl into bed, and he said, "The fucking thing is green." I looked at him, I said, "What did you say?" He repeated it.
Oh my gosh.
And so I went to bed. I was laughing. So the next morning I asked him, I said, "Honey, what were you dreaming about last night?" He said, "I don't know why." And I told him what he said. And I said, "You said, the fucking thing is green." He says, "Well, the only thing I can think of is the inside of that car." But what was so funny, he repeated it.
I can't think of a better story to end this on. That was awesome.
And I don't use that word very often.
I'm so happy that I get to put the explicit tag on this episode of the podcast with my Aunt Elaine.
Do I get to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you a link when it comes out. It'll be a few weeks.
Okay. I hope I did good.
I think you did great.
Okay.
I think.
I wish I could have thought of more jokes.
That's
but
all
I
right.
just can't. You know.
Yeah.
The other night I wrote these 3 down, and I'm sitting there. I thought I used to know a whole bunch of blonde jokes, and do you think anything would come to my mind? And I've got 6 blonde daughters.
Right. I know how it is. I mean, I'm a comedian, and people are like, "Tell me a joke." I'm like, "Mine goes blank. I have, I just can't think of anything." You know, it's
Well, the only
kind of funny
the
how
only
that
blonde
works.
thing, and it's not really a joke. His wife gave him 6 girls, and then when we first got married, I got pregnant right away, and we lost that baby, and that one was a girl. So then I got pregnant again, and of course we had our son. And I told him, I said, "Took a good woman to give you a son." But I said, "Don't tell your daughters I said
Oh my
that."
gosh. Well, Elaine, it's been a pleasure having
Well,
you on my
thank you.
podcast.
I'm anxious to hear it now.
Cool. Well, I'll send you a link, and you'll
Okay.
get to hear it when everybody else
Now,
does.
would that be on Facebook, you mean, or what?
Yeah, I
Okay.
usually, whenever my new episodes come out on Tuesdays, and I put a Facebook post, and then there's a link to the episode in the comments. And if you click that link, it'll take you right to it, and
Okay.
you can just start playing it. So,
Okay.
Cool. Love you.
I love you too. Thanks, Adam.
You're welcome.
It's a brand new day.